On today's episode, we're going to talk about when to start Social Security benefits. We're going to talk about some key terms you should know, the impacts of starting early or late, when most people start, and some factors to consider for when to start your Social Security. Thanks for tuning in. If we haven't met before, I'm Mike Potter, certified financial planning professional and owner of True Wealth Financial. I believe that retirement should be prosperous, enjoyable, and purposeful. But a lot of people struggle with navigating the path into retirement, and rightfully so, as it's complicated, confusing, and challenging for most people. And honestly, it's all new. We created this show to help Christians create and optimize their retirement plan so that they can retire with confidence. Thanks again for taking the time to tune in. Today, we're going to begin a series about 5 decisions that every retiree is going to make. The first one being when to start your Social Security retirement benefits. Now, the reality is that in most cases, Social Security gets a bad rap. But for most people, the benefits that you get from Social Security in retirement will equate to hundreds of thousands of dollars over the course of your retirement. And you only get one decision as to when to start benefits. And that decision can either hurt or help your overall retirement plan. So it's a very important decision that we want to talk about today. But before we get to unpacking that, there's really 2 terms that you need to understand. Now, when it comes to Social Security or anything government related, there's a lot of acronyms and a lot of garblese talk that most people don't know. Washington kind of creates their own lingo, if you will. But these are 2 things that you need to know what they are. The first one is FRA. FRA stands for full retirement age. That is when you get all the benefits that you're entitled to, right? So for most people watching that today, this is going to be age 67. For those that are born before 1960, it's really 66 and a couple months. But for most people, you've either started them already, you're already there, or you have basically a year and a half left to make that decision. And so for most people, it's going to be age 67. So FRA is full retirement age. And again, for most people, that'll be 67. The other acronym that you need to know is PIA, or Primary Insurance Amount. This is the amount of benefits that you will receive at your full retirement age, your PIA at FRA, your primary insurance amount at your full retirement age. But the reality is, again, we'll just assume 67 for this video. You could start it early. You can start it up to 5 years early. So you could start at 62, 63, 64, 65, or 66. And not just those even years, any combination of years and months. So you could start it at 63 years and 3 months as an example. But the reality is, for every month you take it early, you reduce benefits. Again, so your primary benefit is based off of that primary insurance amount at your full retirement age. Well, if you take it early, they don't give you that amount. They reduce it. And that reduction is for the rest of your life. So we won't unpack it in great detail because it's kind of convoluted, but essentially every year you take it early, there's a reduction. For the first 3 years you take it early, so essentially 64, 65, or 66, you lose about 6.6%. So that is, if you take it 3 years early, that adds up to about 20%. If you take it the 4th or 5th year early, essentially 62 or 63, you lose an additional 5% per year. So essentially, if you take it at age 62, you're getting 70% of the benefits you would be entitled to at your full retirement age. Now, there's a lot of factors that we'll talk about here in a little bit as to why you might want to do that. But essentially, the sooner you start getting payments, the more payments you'll have. That's the primary benefit of this. It's a reduced amount, but you get more payments. Assuming you die at age 90, you're going to get more payments starting at 62 than you would at 67. But they reduce the amount per payment. Conversely, if you don't start your benefits at your full retirement age, that's age 67, and you wait after that, you could delay it up to 3 years, so up to age 70. And for each year you delay it, again, it's actually by month, but for each year you delay it, you get an 8% increase of benefit. So essentially, if you delay it all the way till 70, you're getting 24% more than you would at your full retirement age. Now, why might you want to do that? Well, there's a lot of factors that we'll unpack here in a little bit, but essentially you're delaying your payments so you get less total payments. So again, if your life ends at age 90, as an example, which we don't know, but you would get less payments starting at 70 than you would at 67. So they give you more per payment. That's essentially how it works out. But there is generally a break-even amount to this. Generally, you break even around the 78 or 79 or 80 years. So just to put a very simple example to that, let's say your PIA at full retirement age is $1,000. For most of you, it'll be well more than that. But let's just say for easy math, it's $1,000. Well, if you were to start it at age 4, essentially 3 years early, you would not get $1,000, you would get $800. If you started at age 62, you wouldn't get the $1,000 per month, you would get $700. You have a 30% reduction. Conversely, if you delay it up to age 70, you wouldn't get $1,000, you would get $1,240, 24% more. So you can see as to when you start it dictates how much you get. Plus, again, a handful of other factors that are involved in that number. So when do most people start their Social Security benefits? Well, this might not be a good example for you to follow, but it might give you a general idea as to when the majority of people start. So this here is from the Congressional Research Service report, and it outlines the age of which new retirement workers filed their Social Security benefits in 2021. This is the latest report, right? So in 2024, obviously it's a couple of years dated, but we don't have the numbers even from 22 yet, let alone, 23. So it's a little dated, but I think it's representative of the norm. So you can see from this chart here, the majority of people either start their benefits at age 62 or age 66. Age 62 is when you're first entitled to it. So almost 30%, almost 1 in 3 start it then. The other biggest number is age 66. Now you have to remember, for people in 2021, that was their full retirement age, right? So they were born before 1960. And so their full retirement age was 66 and some months. So it kind of makes sense. I anticipate this over the next couple of years migrating to age 67. So most people started early. The second most amount is at full retirement age when they get their full benefits. And we'll unpack a reason why a lot of people do that here in the factors to consider. And then the third most common number is at 70 when they get the most benefits of those delayed credits. So that is when most people start. If you're finding this informative and helpful, please hit the like button. It's a great way to let me know that you like shows like this. Plus, it's a nice way to say thank you. So now that we know some key terms, we know the impacts of starting early or starting late or taking it at full retirement age, and we know when most people start, the question is, what are some factors to consider in your decision? Because again, you only get this one time. And I'll tell you right off the bat, there is no right answer. The right answer for you is going to be different than the right answer for your friend or the right answer for your sibling. It's going to be different for everybody. But so some, retirement planning, like we've talked about, is very complex. So everybody's life is different. So there's not one proverbial correct answer. So the question is, what should we consider when we're making this decision? And there's a lot of different factors, and we'll go through about 5 or 6 of them here. The first one is, when are you going to actually retire? When are you going to leave the workforce? That will play a large decision because your income will go away and you might need to turn on that Social Security benefits. But if you're going to continue to work, there is such a thing as earnings tests. And so you actually lose benefits if you get benefits while you're still working prior to your full retirement age. So that's something you want to take into consideration. Again, the next thing might be to consider is how much actually income do you have, or what other sources of income might you have? So if you have a pension, if you have an annuity, if you have an inheritance, if you have a disability, if you have money coming in from other resources like rent, those would all play in a factor here. Do you need the money? If you need the money, you'd be more inclined to take it early. If you don't need the money, you'd be more inclined to wait. Another important decision is your health. Now, no one knows how long we're going to live for. I use the example of 90 just as a mile marker, but we don't know how long we're going to live. But we do know you have a general idea of how your health is, right? So if you are less healthy and you think that you might pass away earlier, you'd be more inclined to start it earlier. Because again, the number of benefits that you actually get are based upon when you start and how much you get. So if you think you might pass away earlier, you'd be more inclined to start it earlier. If you're relatively healthy at age 60, years old, and you're relatively healthy, in good shape, exercising, good weight, things like that, you don't smoke, good healthy habits, and you're in good health and you think you might have a good longevity, you would be more inclined to delay it because you get more, and more money per payment, and you would get more payments if you live longer. So your health would play a large factor. And again, no one knows exactly when you're going to die, but you do have a general idea. Are you relatively healthy? Are you unhealthy? And that's one of many decisions to consider. The other one that we hinted at here is longevity, right? So do you have longevity in your family? Are your parents still alive? What's their health? When did they pass away? Aunts, uncles, siblings, things like that. Generally speaking, again, there's a break-even amount, whether you take it early or at full retirement age or late, around 78, 79. And so if you think you're going to live longer than that, it makes sense, to take it later. But again, it all kind of depends on your longevity. So what's the longevity genes, how successful or non-successful were you in the gene pool, right? That's a consideration to make. Another factor might be your investing knowledge and your risk tolerance, right? So some people, for example, they don't need the money early, but they might take the money early at age 62, 3, 4, 5, something like that. And then they could just invest it. And so in theory, you might be able to make more than the 5 or 6% reduction that you're going to get, or even the 8% you can get for delayed credit, right? So depending on your willingness to invest, how much you need, things like that, you could potentially start it early and take it and make more, right? So that's something to consider. Another thing to consider is that of your taxable income. The reality is that Social Security is taxed like no other income in the world. It is really how much of your Social Security is taxed is based upon other income you have. So the more income you have from other sources, the more amount of your Social Security benefits are going to get taxed. The less other incomes you have, the less your Social Security income is going to be taxed, the less amount of it, right? So that would play into a decision. Another consideration is that of assets and legacy goals. Legacy goals is a fancy way of saying how much do we want to leave to our spouse, to our kids, to our grandchildren, to charity, to entities, things like that, organizations, right? So if you have a desire to leave a lot amount of money to heirs on a legacy basis, then you would want to preserve those assets and potentially start your Social Security early for income. Conversely, the opposite is true. If legacy is not important, then it really wouldn't matter. You could start drawing down those assets first, allowing Social Security to delay and using it more as a longevity insurance. So again, another factor to consider. A large factor is that to consider are you planning for one person or two people, right? That will play a large role. If it's just you can make that decision and you live the consequences thereof, both positive and negative. But if you're making the decision for two people, the reality is there is such a thing as spousal benefits and survivor benefits that plays into the large plan. And so if you're the high income earner and you have a higher PIA, primary insurance amount at your full retirement age, and you start that early because you don't think you need the money, but then you pass away, well, you might have hamstrung your spouse who might be very dependent upon the income. That is why most people start at age, or well, I won't say most people, but that's why a lot of people start at full retirement age, because that will get the spouse the maximum amount from a spousal benefits. And the same thing with 70, right? So spousal benefits don't increase in the delayed credits, but survivor benefits do. So that's why a lot of people might start at age 70. That will maximize the survivor benefits to the surviving spouse, assuming the high income earner passes away first. And again, the last thing to consider with this is, are you, again, planning for two? If you have two Social Security benefits that you're planning with, you have essentially two levers. You've doubled down on this. So instead of, whereas most people have one, you now have two that you can work together, and you can do some coordination, some timing of them to really maximize the benefit between the two of them. Today, we talked about Social Security benefits and specifically when to start them. We talked about some key terms involved, the impacts of starting early or late, when most people start, and some factors to consider. Now, ideally, this decision should be made in consideration and in conjunction with your overall comprehensive retirement plan. If you don't have a retirement plan, a good first step might be a True Wealth assessment. True Wealth assessment is a financial checkup of sorts. It'll let you know where you currently stand, give you access to right capital, and a one-page plan of recommendations that you can implement to improve your journey into retirement. If you already have a retirement plan, a good micro action for this week might be to go pull your Social Security statement, because they just updated over the summer here to get your new one and see what your primary insurance amount at full retirement age is going to be. Remember, Social Security benefits play a large role in most people's retirement. It's an important decision, and it's one you only get to pull the lever on once. Hope this helps you on your path to a prosperous, enjoyable, and purposeful retirement. And until next time, hope you have a great day. Thanks again for taking the time to watch this week's episode of the True Wealth Financial Show. I encourage you to like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. Additionally, you can find more information on our website at www.truewealth.show. One final note, though, as we wrap up to today's show. While I hope the information was helpful, valuable, and insightful, it's really for information and educational purposes only. Prior to making any decisions or taking any actions, I'd strongly encourage you to talk to your legal, tax, estate, or financial advisor who's familiar with the unique circumstances of your particular personal situation. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, hope you have a great day.